rated T to M. Hey, want to hear a PC Game Pass ad? I'll take your silence as a yes. Want new games on day one like Call of Duty Black Ops 6 or Stalker 2? I thought so. How about unlocking all the League of Legends champions when you link your Riot Games account? All for one low monthly price? Well, guess what? We got you. Learn more at xbox.com/PC Game Pass or click the banner. Stalker 2 available November 20th, 2024. Game catalog varies by region and over time. And that's the end of the script.
Being a marketer's no sweat. You just have to manage dozens of channels, launch hundreds of campaigns, score thousands of leads, and okay, fine, it's a lot of sweat. Unless you have HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools to help you do all that and more. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
If you are interested in supporting this podcast and at the same time getting all my episodes ad-free, then please head to my website, 3dprintingbasicspod.com. Again, that's 3dprintingbasicspod.com. There you can find all the links to support me, my affiliate links, and as a perk, you can get all my episodes ad-free if you subscribe on Patreon, Spotify, or Apple Music. Again, all my links will be there, as well as a contact form if you have any questions. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, and welcome back to 3D Printing Basics. This is episode number 41, and in this episode, I'm going to talk about my experience with my new SLA printer that I just purchased. Before I get into it, I would like to mention that if you are at all interested in supporting this podcast, or if you have any questions, I just finished my new website specifically for this podcast. It is www.3dprintingbasicspod.com. Again, that's www.3dprintingbasicspod.com. I will also leave a link in the show notes. If you are at all interested, I have all my links there if you want to support me on Patreon, Spotify, Apple, also my affiliate links, just any way you want to support me. And also there's a contact form if you have any questions. Please go through that form. Thank you so much, and with that being said, let's get into today's episode. This episode is brought to you by PCBWay. Ready to take your electronics projects to the next level? PCBWay offers everything you need, from custom PCBs to 3D printing and even CNC machining, all under one roof. They're trusted by engineers and makers worldwide for their exceptional quality and fast turnaround. And here's a special deal for listeners of 3D Printing Basics. Use the promo code 3DPrintingSquared, SQUARED, to get $10 off your first order. Start your next project with PCBWay and see the difference for yourself. Head over to PCBWay.com today. This episode is brought to you by Sculpteo. Are you ready to bring your 3D printing projects to life? Look no further than Sculpteo. Whether you're a hobbyist, designer, or business owner, Sculpteo's on-demand 3D printing service has you covered. With over 75 materials and finishes to choose from, Sculpteo helps turn your ideas into reality with precision and speed. Plus, as a listener of 3D Printing Basics, you get an exclusive deal. Use the promo code 3DP_basics_10% at checkout for 10% off your order. Don't wait. Take your creations to the next level with Sculpteo. So, yes, I got an SLA printer, something that I honestly thought I would never do. I know I've made an episode on SLA printing in the past. It was one of the very first episodes I made. It was comparing FDM printing to SLA printing. And just overall, I thought SLA printing was a really good option for somebody who wants to make figurines and just highly detailed stuff like that, but I never thought it would apply to me and my business. But over the course of time, I got more and more requests for parts that I thought would be better printed with SLA printing, and so I decided to pull the trigger and get one. For those of you that are interested, I got an Elegoo Saturn 4 Ultra. It just seemed like the best printer that was out right now for the best cost. So I ordered that, and the printer came. It came in one box. I also got it in a bundle. It came with a cure station as well as a washing station, which I will get into later. Unboxing was very, very simple. It was pretty similar to the Bamboo Lab printers. There's not much you need to do. Just take out all the foam, and then it's pretty much just plug and play from there. I did want to outline everything that I needed on top of just getting this printer. So stuff that I had to buy. Of course, we're going to talk about the material or the filament. In this case, it's resin, so I had to get some resin. I also got a silicone mat for a tabletop because this is a very messy endeavor, and the silicone mat will definitely help. You got to get a lot of paper towels. You got to buy gloves as well, and I think that's just about it. I got a power strip too, just because there's multiple multiple things that need to be plugged in, but that's not totally necessary. So yeah, that's everything that I got and everything that I needed for this entire setup. But I would say unboxing and setup was very, very simple. It's definitely pretty plug and play. So the next thing that I did after checking and making sure everything was okay was obviously turn the printer on. And the thing that I liked about the Elegoo Saturn 4 Ultra, which by the way, this isn't sponsored. I wish it was, but it is not. The thing that I like about this printer is that every time you turn it on, it runs through its own manual self-check. And it'll show you on the LCD screen, it just goes through a list of things that it checks. It checks the Z motor, checks the X motor, it checks the status lights, and it just lets you know that everything is good to go before starting your print, which I think is something that's really nice. And as an overthinker myself, it's something that I enjoy having. So then I went on to the first print. The Elegoo Saturn 4, just like most other printers, have files that are preloaded. In this case, it was a Rook, the chess piece, a Rook. It already had it pre-sliced, preloaded, ready to go. And so I just started off with this print. And this print took about 3 hours, I would say. And overall, it came out amazing. I really am happy with it. But before I get too ahead of myself, I wanted to talk about post-printing, because that's the main difference with SLA printing and FDM printing, is the post-print process, because you can't just take a print off of an SLA printer and call it good. You have to do other things. You have to clean it, and then you have to cure it. So once this print was done, I took it off the build plate, which also, by the way, is a little bit different. The build plate for most SLA printers are not flexible. You can buy attachments that make flexible, removable magnetic build plates like you have on FDM, but I haven't done that yet. So what you have to do to get it off is basically just go at it with the metal spatula, and in this case it stuck a little bit too good, so I was really hacking at it trying to get it off, but eventually it did come off. And then I stuck it in the washing station, which is essentially just a blender that's filled with isopropyl alcohol. And so you stick it in there for about 10 minutes, and what this does is it washes off all the uncured resin off of your part. Because if you think about it, what SLA printing does is it cures layers of resin to build up a whole object. But obviously it's not curing all the resin that's in the vat. So you're going to have some resin that gets on the outside. It's going to be a little bit slimy coming out, which is why you need the gloves. And so you need to cure it, and before you cure it, you need to wash off all the unused, uncured resin off of it. And so once you've done that, then you stick it in the curing station, which is basically just a UV light that spins around for 5-10 minutes and cures your part completely. And once you've cured your part, then you're good to go, and you have a very nice, very highly detailed SLA part. I'm actually looking at it right now, and it's beautiful. I wouldn't even be able to tell that it's 3D printed, honestly, because it's so highly detailed. There are some very small letters on here, and there are just some details that are very, very sharp, and I don't think you'd be able to replicate this part on an FDM printer. Maybe you could with a $100,000 machine, but I don't think you could do it on a Bamboo Labs per se. But hey, prove me wrong if you want to. Now, with that being said, I don't think I can chalk that first print up to a success, because after I took it off the build plate, I was messing with it a little bit, and I cracked it before the curing process. So when you pull a freshly printed part off of the resin printer, the resin isn't completely 100% cured. What the resin printer does is it cures it enough to hold it in place so that you can build up the part, and then the curing station is what cures it to 100% of its strength. And I wasn't super in tune with that, and so I was definitely handling it a little roughly, not to mention the Rook is a pretty delicate model, and I cracked it right at the base. And so I can't say that was my first successful print. My first successful print was a test that I was running. Basically, I just took a job that I had done for a previous client, and I wanted to see if it could print out well on the SLA printer, and sure enough it did. And what I changed to make this more successful, to make sure I didn't crack it, was I changed the support system, because I had printed one in between these two prints where I made the supports pretty heavy, and when I was trying to take them off, I cracked that model. So I made sure the supports were really light, not super heavy at all, easy to take off, and sure enough, everything came out pretty good. But that print was not without problems itself, because what happens is when you print parts in SLA, the inside is usually hollow. And so sometimes you will have resin that gets trapped in there, and they have what you call a dig hole setting, which is exactly what it sounds like. You put holes in the model so that the uncured resin can drain out. And I didn't wait long enough to take these parts off of the SLA build plate. And so this resin started leaking out after I was done washing it, after I was done curing it. So that was pretty unfortunate, but I would still ultimately call this a successful print because everything came out nicely and everything worked the way it was supposed to. Now, with that being said, there are a few tips that I would like to offer. The first one being, be gentle with your prints. The first 2 prints that I did, I was definitely too rough with them before the curing process, and I ended up cracking both of them and rendering them useless. So if you're going to get into SLA printing, definitely be careful with that. The second thing, and what I think is probably the most important, is to get a silicone mat or something like that, because SLA printing is messy. No matter how much you try to contain everything, you are going to drip on your work surface. You are going to get resin that drips everywhere. You're going to get alcohol or whatever cleaning solution you're using all over the place. It's just a messy endeavor, and that's kind of the price you pay when you want super, super highly detailed parts. It's just kind of the way it is. But with that being said, you need to be careful because the resin is definitely very harmful, and you need to take care of the workstation that you are keeping it on. And silicone is the easiest, and you can just pick up the silicone mat after a while and you can leave it out in the sun. Because the resin is UV curable, if you leave it out in the sun, then the resin will cure on the mat, and then it will easily get removed off of the silicone. Now, the third tip that I have for SLA printing is just be careful overall. The resin can be very bad for your skin. It doesn't smell great. I would make sure you're doing it in a well-ventilated area. But as somebody with not a ton of experience with SLA printing, I've only got about 4 prints under my belt. I would say just most important is to make sure you're wearing gloves and make sure you're in a well-ventilated area, because this stuff can definitely be dangerous. It's definitely more dangerous than just your everyday FDM PLA, that's for sure. So just make sure you're keeping an eye out and being careful with that. But if you do everything right and you take care of yourself, you take care of your prints, SLA printing can be really useful, especially for hobbyists who want something like figurines, who want to print something like models, stuff that is really, really highly detailed and very complex that would otherwise be difficult to complete on an FDM printer. SLA printing is a very good alternative for that exact type of audience. So if that is the kind of printer that you want to be, then by all means, I would look into SLA printing. Some of the downsides is you need a bigger footprint, because you don't just need the printer, you need a curing station of some kind, whether it just be a UV flashlight or a full-on setup like I have. Same goes with the washing station. You just need a bigger footprint overall to house your SLA process. And of course, the fumes and the dangers, everything that I mentioned before, you're going to have to pay more for things like resin. As far as I think, it looks like you're going to need more material overall, and the material costs more per gram. So you definitely got to be wary of that. And I think that is just about everything that I have. That's my experience with SLA printing. I'm excited to get more into it. If you have any questions about SLA printing or anything else, again, please head to my brand new website. Let me know what you think. The link is going to be down in the description below. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.